Now, I had finished the poem Crow's Fall by Ted Hughes in my last class. That was the class that I took. Now, so I would like to discuss a particular question that might be said, because this is a new syllabus for you and this is a new poem. So what types of questions might come, that remains to be seen, but some of the questions might those questions which might be said, so we are uh, we have to look into that. Now, here is the poem. So this is, I am sharing this. And let us look at this poem. We had already um, analyzed this. So the question that I would like to discuss here, that would be uh, Crow's Fall by Ted Hughes as an allegorical journey. So that would be the question. So an allegorical interpretation of Crow's Fall. So this would be the question. So let us look at this poem, and first, of course, let us uh, look at the definition of allegory. What is an allegory? Now, an allegory is a very powerful literary device, and it is often used by uh, writers who are composing poems, and also novelists or fictional writers, to convey deeper meanings and messages through symbolic representation. Through the use of symbols, something is communicated, some meaning is communicated. So it is a kind of a work that makes extensive use of symbolism in order to communicate a broader moral or meaning. So the characters, the dialogue, the objects, the setting, the plot, everything can be interpreted or analyzed as having a different meaning or a secondary meaning. For example, in the 17th century, John Bunyan, he had written a particular non-fictional work called The Pilgrim's Progress, where the main character in this work was named Christian, and his journey, uh, as well as the journeys of the other characters in this book, the object, the location, uh, with the people with whom he interacted. So all these were symbolically fit into a larger moral lesson. So that is an allegory. Now, in this poem, Crow's Fall by Ted Hughes, now it is, as we have seen, a very interesting poem. And here also, allegory plays a significant role in exploring certain themes. As you know that each and every poem, it should have a particular theme or sub-themes or more than one themes. So in this poem, Crow's Fall, you'd uh, you'd see there are certain themes that the poet is discussing, and these are the themes of, firstly, ambition. Ambition, that is the first theme. Then the second one is power, and the complex relationship between human beings and the natural world. And the natural world, as you can understand, it is being represented by the crow, the character of this crow. So the character of this crow is a very interesting and puzzling kind of a character. And Hughes is trying to make out of this a kind of an allegorical journey. And here, through its use, he's trying to look deep into the human mind, the human psyche, psyche, and the quest for dominance that is being uh, revealed in the character of the crow, and what are the results, the inevitable consequences, what happens when one challenges or tries to challenge the established order. That is something that is discussed in this poem by the poet. So you understand what an allegory is and how this figure of the allegory is being used in this poem. So that is the question we are going to discuss. Now, when we come across the poem for the very first time, we it might seem to us that a kind of a this is a poem which recounts a kind of a fantastical account of a crow's very audacious attempt to conquer the sun. So the crow is challenging the sun. So when crow was white, he decided the sun was too white. He decided it glared much too whitely. He decided to attack it and defeat it. So it was a kind of a challenge that he threw to the sun. So beneath the superficial, poem, there lies an allegory that unravels, or that reveals the, you know, that reveals the uh, pursuit of power by human beings, and the desire in human beings to transcend or overcome certain limitations that are there. So that might be the interpretation, how the crow challenges the sun. Now, the crow was white. So when crow was white, that is the first words in the first line of the poem. So the poem begins with a kind of an introduction. The poet is introducing the character of the crow to us, to his readers. And it is introduced as a white creature. So we normally do not conceive or do not think of a crow as being white. There might be some albino crows which are white, but of course, those are very rare, extremely rare. So, crows are generally black in color, black and ashen, grayish. So, this initial whiteness seems to symbolize a certain level of innocence, purity, or the absence of knowledge. So white is associated, the color white is associated with, as you know, it is associated with purity, a kind of a pureness and innocence. So, uh, in this particular state, crow looks at the sun and it thinks that the sun is too white. It is glaring at him. And he views it as an overwhelming force or something that is unattainable, kind of an unattainable power. So, often, human beings, they look at nature. The sun is part of nature, so is the crow. So it mirrors, or it sort of presents a situation where human beings, they look at nature or the universe, uh, or even their own situations as uh, very distant, very bright, unattainable, like that. So here also the same thing is being described by the poet. Now, what does Crow decide to do? He decided it glared much too brightly. He decided to attack it and defeat it. So this crow, after it notices the sun's brightness, extreme brightness, it takes the decision to attack the sun, and it somewhat reflects human ambition and the desire to challenge the established order. The sun symbolizes the established order that is there, already there, and the crow symbolizes human ambition, which tries to attack or challenge that established order. Now, Ted Hughes does not give his readers, does not give us any reason, you know, any reason as to why this crow suddenly decides to attack the sun. What made him do it? So there is no plausible decision, reason as such. So we as readers, or readers in general, they are free to analyze the poem, interpret the poem in different ways according to their own understandings. So the poem might be, or rather, this decision of Crow to attack the sun might be interpreted as a kind of a representation of of human tendency to question and challenge the boundaries of nature and the universe. Or it could also symbolize, man's eternal desire to pursue knowledge, to go after knowledge and power beyond his limits. So the thirst for knowledge that is represented in certain poems, like in a poem like Ulysses by Lord Tennyson, and in Dr. Faustus, the tragedy by Christopher Marlowe. So all these themes were there, and this might be one analysis, one way of analyzing why Crow decides to challenge the sun. Now, uh, what does he do? Crow. He got his strength up flush and in full glitter. He clawed and fluffed his rage up. He aimed his beak direct at the sun's center. He laughed himself to the center of himself and attacked. So there is preparation. The crow prepares for the confrontation, for the big battle with the sun. So the poet, Ted Hughes, he uses a vivid imagery to depict what happens, how he sort of prepares. So he fluffs up his strength. He tries to build up his strength and claws and sort of aims his beak direct at the sun's center. So he keeps his eyes fixed on the center of the sun, where the glare is the brightest, the whiteness is the brightest. And then this attitude of Crow this stance that he adopts, it portrays or it reveals his aggressive and assertive stance. So the crow is very assertive and aggressive. It is in a very kind of a fighting mood, you can say. And here also there is the similarity between human ambition, how crow tries to claw and achieve, strives, struggles to achieve its goals, like human beings who have to struggle, try very hard to achieve their goals. So this is a kind of a similarity that we see here between human beings and crow. And next comes the attack on the sun. At his battle cry, trees grew suddenly, old shadows flattened. This is the transformation that takes place at the natural level, but the sun brightened. Now, when crow aims his beak directly at sun's center, this becomes another powerful allegory for human ambition, aiming at the highest achievement possible. So, human ambition aiming at the highest achievement possible. So, the sun is the universal symbol of power and enlightenment, and it becomes the target of crow's quest for dominance. The crow is desirous of dominating the sun, like like a human being who wants to dominate nature, represented by the sun. So the crow's quest for dominance, his search for dominance, that is uh, represented here, and it is allegorized in this way. Now, the crow's laughter when he reaches the center of himself illustrates his pride and self assertion, assuredness. And this is one characteristic that can be found, that can be often found in ambitious pursuits. Those who are ambitious, they often uh, laugh and try to achieve their goals. So here he laughed himself to the center of himself. So he prepares himself for the battle with the sun and laughs and tries to fly directly at the sun. Now, what happens? The consequences and the, you know, what is the result of this action of crow? Now, the crow feels that it is a fierce creature and it has attacked the sun in a very fierce way. But unfortunately for the crow, but the sun brightened. The sun, instead of sort of becoming dimmer, or its light and rays becoming, you know, less bright, it brightened. So this is something that the crow had not expected. So the sun remains unyielding. It does not submit to crow's attack, and it is, you can say, rather it increases in its brightness. Now, this outcome presents a kind of a profound paradox. A paradox meaning something that the crow uh, had not expected. What was intended, what was expected, did not happen. And this is another allegory. How the sun becomes brighter when crow attacks it. So here we can see that it is a kind of a response, and the crow's efforts have stirred a kind of a reaction. The sun's brightness intensifies, it represents nature's resilience and a kind of indomitable force. Crows return, and what happens? And crow returned charred black. So that is the ultimate result. The crow becomes black. It is burnt. Its feathers, white feathers, is burnt, and it loses its white color. So it highlights the price of his defiance. So the consequence of challenging the natural order represented by the sun. So his charred state may symbolize the transformation that is brought about by his ambitious quest, which might have left him scared and changed forever. This is the transformation crow undergoes. And this is an allegory in the sense that this can be equated with the consequences of human ambition, what human beings might experience when they challenge the natural order, which they fail to overcome, and instead their previous condition, that is tarnished, it becomes compromised. So uh, we can see a kind of transformation comes over crow, not only in its appearance, but also we can see in the way it now is able to call out. So the poem then it concludes, he opened his mouth, but what came out was charred black. So actually it lost its voice. Its voice became harsh and kind of charred. So Crow attempts to express his victory, but only charred black, within quotes, words come out. So this is symbolic, and it is a representation that the pursuit of power and the defiance of nature may lead to a loss of clarity and understanding. So previously, Crow was able to convey his thoughts with a lot of clarity and reason, but now it is charred black. Not only its appearance, it has become black, but also its voice. So, human ambition. So, this is a kind of an allegory showing that human ambition may lead to a distortion of truth, and the perspective might be changed. And so, obviously, the crow, he manages to say, where white is black and black is white, I won. So he refuses to acknowledge defeat. He says that no, I have not been defeated. It is the sun which is black, and I am white. Black is white. But I have been turned black by the sun, but I am actually white. And the sun, which appears to be white, it is actually black. So ultimately, this allegory is revealed by the poet. So the poem, as we can see here, Ted Hughes, he very artfully crafts an allegorical representation that invites readers to explore. To explore what? The complexities of human ambition that is being shown in this poem. And the consequences that might take place of challenging the natural order and the ever present paradox of power. So, When one tries to grab power, something untoward happens, something goes wrong. And there is a kind of a delicate balance between human aspiration, human ambition, and the forces of nature. So the balance that is there, that is disturbed. And we as readers of the poem, we can, look at, or we can go into the depths of this poem, Crow's Fall, and then we would understand the truth of human existence. The truth of human existence that would be clear to us. And we would see the kind of a balance between, as we saw, human aspiration and balance between human aspiration and forces of nature, and the truth of human existence, and some of the questions that are there, the interplay between ambition, power, and the forces of the universe that is there. So we can obviously look at this poem from this standpoint, and obviously the poem thus can be looked at as an allegory in this sense. And therefore, obviously, Crow's Fall by Ted Hughes is an allegory, and it is an allegory in this sense. How Crow's ambition, his decision, that is described in the first stanza of the poem by Ted Hughes, his decision to challenge the authority of the sun, that becomes sort of a kind of a wrong decision. And Crow is unable to beat the sun, overcome the power of the sun, because it is impossible for any creature. It represents the ultimate power. The sun represents the ultimate power, and crow is a representation of, natural, one of the natural features. And therefore, this is a poem where this is being discussed. The crow as a mythical figure, it would, or it embodies the ever present, audacious spirit of humanity. Human beings, not all human beings, of course, but some human beings are very ambitious, very audacious. They do not want to be circumscribed, or they do not want to be confined within their limits to which they have been confined or kept. So they want to challenge this limit. They want to go beyond this limit. And crow is a, you know, symbol of that. Crow also wants to challenge the sun, and it wants to challenge natural order. So in this sense, it is an allegory. And as I had told you at the beginning of my class, that an allegory is a kind of a representation through the telling of a story. It can be a fictional, non-fictional, or poetic representation. Here it is a poem through which Ted Hughes, the poet, he tries to give us some kind of a message. So Crow's Fall is a poem. It can be interpreted as an allegory in this way. How the white crow is sort of uh, eager to defeat the sun. It tries to do so. It prepares itself, symbolizing the way human beings might prepare for a battle or a kind of a confrontation with something. The battle starts, the crow is not able to win against the sun, though it takes all kinds of preparations. It makes up or it prepares to fight by fluffing up its feathers, its rage up, fluffed its rage up. It tries to become very angry, look very angry at the glare white light coming out from the sun. So it wants to challenge the sun because it doesn't like the kind of white light that is being emitted by the sun. So this is the poem, and uh, obviously, as we can see, uh, this is the interpretation that we have made. So I would stop sharing the text with you